Here we are with Leigh Mitchell. How we doing? How's things?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not too bad.
How you finding training in lockdown at the minute?
Well, obviously not training as much as usual. So just trying to make the best of kind of what I've got and doing what I can when I can, really.
See, you put a video up on your Instagram earlier, and what makes me ask this question, the trainers, those are looking fresh. Which ones are those ones? They Air Maxes or what are those?
They are Air Maxes. I bought them on sale actually.
Let's have a
I
look.
went in there looking for them new Reebok ones into JD's, and they weren't in there. So I was like, oh, well, these are on sale for like 60 quid or something. I was like, and
Ooh,
the only size left was mine. So I was like, that is a bit of
that's
a bit of a
fake.
bargain. It's got to be.
Because you got to appreciate. I was amazed you were hitting the bag with Air Maxes on. That was what was amazing me because like the kind of trainers they are, quite clumpy. I was amazed you were light on your feet still. What's that about?
Um, well, I don't know. They are quite comfortable, so I don't know, you don't really. They are quite clumpy as well. Though I think I kicked the bag a couple of times. I was like, nah, I don't feel good.
That's it. Yeah, you get cheap ones for those ones. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to fight stuff and the rest of it. So, had your reason, we're on the podcast. Um, Before we got started, I had a quick flick through your topology for a little recap, and you've got some interesting fights on your resume. You fought one of my old teammates, Luke Shanks, and you fought
Oh yeah,
Jack Eglin, one of the best flyweights in the UK. So that's an
yeah.
interesting. Some of those fights are really interesting. So talk to me through your amateur journey. How did you get stuck in the first place?
Um, well, there was just a club in my hometown kind of thing. Wasn't that advanced really. There's just like a few local guys. And obviously the instructor who like knew some bits and pieces. But I probably stayed there for maybe a year or so, and then just kind of kept moving through gyms. Had a few fights. I think I had my first one when I was 15. Um, Literally at the Charter Hall where the Cage Warriors Academy is still now. So I've been fighting in that venue since I was 15. Um, and yeah, just moving from gyms, just taking fights. Been at BKK now for probably must be 6 or 7. Well, yeah, it must be 5, 6, 7 years or something. I don't know, something like that. But well, since I've been there, things have been perfect. Really, I mean, I've like you say, I fought Luke, lost that one. That was a bit of a scrap as well. It was a good fight though.
Mm.
Um, and then yeah, just kind of add some little lessons like that. But I've had some good wins against some good guys as well, and some journeys away. Fought some good guys, like fought in Leeds, fought Jack Temple in Leeds. Obviously, I fought Jack Eglin, which was they're all good guys. That's the thing. Like so, I feel like lucky. I fought all these good guys in the amateurs because they're as tough as they come, really, even in the pros.
See, this is what's interesting with having having a good record, but also having good names on it. That gives it even more substance because again, you get
Yeah.
the guys have their padded records, and it's all very, I don't know. It's an interesting one.
I
So,
just find them guys come unstuck a little bit.
well, this is it. You can only hide for so long. But what I thought was quite
That is true.
interesting is training with Steve at the BKK, and that similar sort of high pressure kind of like heavy grappling and submissions as well. It's really interesting. Hopefully, Steve didn't scare you off coming on today.
Nah, not at all. Nah, it was good. Steve was a good listen as well. Kept me busy while I was at work, so.
This is it. Now, this was interesting as well, regards of your work as well, because it's quite physical what you do, isn't it? Scaffolding, isn't it?
Nah, I used to do just general labouring,
Mm.
like building sites. I worked in Barnet for a little while and just all over the place. But I just do painting now because it's not that physical. That's the reason I do it, or like the reason I enjoy doing it more than lugging stuff about because then I'm still fresh for training in the evening.
This is what I was going to get into, really. Having quite a physical job. Obviously, now you've said it's not as physical now, but prior to that, your strength conditioning or any kind of maintenance work you do, how would you structure your fight camp having such a strenuous job?
Um, well, just kind of get on with it. You just work in the day and train at night, and then train Saturday and Sunday. That's literally it.
That's fair.
So obviously there's class, there's all different sessions and whatnot. So like there's Like I work, say for example, Monday, then Monday night I'll go and do Jack Mason. Like get them. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, cut out for a second. All I got was
Sorry,
Jack Mason. I can
yeah.
imagine that's the interest. That's a bit of a
So
cliffhanger
Jack
there. So Jack Mason on Monday.
Yeah, it's like just a technical MMA session. A lot of new guys there, so there's no sparring or anything like that. But just good to go over them basics and keep them all solid. Um, then Tuesday, I can't even remember. Mine's gone a blank. Tuesday is actually the day that I do my gym work. So I'll go do some like sprints on a spin bike, chuck some weights about. Just at one of the gyms in my town. Then Wednesday is our big Wednesdays. We all call it Warzone Wednesdays because everyone just turns up. It's another good technical session, all the same. But we do one of our 2 sparring sessions at the end of that class or after that class, and we called that Warzone Wednesdays for a bit, where we all beat each other up. Then Thursdays, it's like the kickboxing class of the week, with Sean Carter. Fridays wrestling, Saturdays with again MMA with Jack Mason. Then Sundays is like the pro team sparring kind of thing. So it's every day, and then I'll work Monday to Friday. So that's literally it. There's my whole week.
Sounds exhausting. There's a few things I want to touch on as well. Obviously, having a physical job and also working a lot, and also being professional MMA fighter, you have to cut a lot of weight and everything else normally. Well, you've moved up away the category anyway. But how do you find the nutrition side? Do you find you're eating enough?
Yeah. Now I haven't got. Now I've moved up, I can kind of relax a little bit with that, which is nice because it isn't as stressful. I've said like when I've done interviews with other people and stuff, like it's kind of I haven't got to worry about it now. So I still eat clean and stuff like that. Like I have someone make me some meals, for the week. Look, it's one of my mum's friends, but she cooks up some really nice grub, mixes it all up so it's not boring. But the cutting side of things, it's not like I have to cut a great deal. There's bantamweights that are a lot bigger than I am, but I just feel since I've been at bantamweight, I've literally felt so healthy on the day. I felt strong, and I feel like it's made such a difference than feeling like kind of achy. Like I'd have like achy legs on fight day every time at flyweight, but since being a bantamweight, I just feel fresh on the day, and I feel like that's more important.
Well, this is it. You seem to have a lot more life in you as well. You can see from the interviews as well when you're talking to people, you've got a bit more. You're more there. You see what I mean?
Yeah, not you see in my face as well and stuff like that. I look like a corpse. I look like a corpse. But yeah, I just don't. I feel like it's just a little bit easier, and obviously the rounds are longer as a professional, so you kind of gotta be fresher really. If you want to like be able to stick a pace on someone for 3 5s, I can't imagine having to try and do that and feel dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would just be such a task and could probably ruin your fight for you.
When you were an amateur and you started training, what sparring rounds were you doing in the gym? Was that 5 minutes or 3 minute rounds?
It depends who's on the mat, really. If there was more, obviously, there's such a variety of guys at the gym. There's guys who have maybe had one fight, or even people who haven't even competed at all the way up to guys like myself, Steve, Aimable, Emra. Them guys obviously fighting on Cage Warriors, like for belts and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So there's such a wide variety. So if there's more pro guys on the mat, we just do 5s. But now to be fair, I think we just do 5s. It's very rare that we do 3s. But if there's guys who are competing at amateur, we still make sure that people get 3s in because obviously that's what they're going to be doing. I feel like the pace is obviously different.
Good.
For between a 3 minute and a 5 minute round, so the amateur guys still get the feel for the 3 minute rounds and stuff.
So I don't know if you're finished. There's a bit of delay here and there, but yeah, that's really interesting, that kind of transition period. Because this is what we wanted to touch on, is that transition in your training. Because obviously it's different. If you've got 5 minute rounds in training, you're going to pace yourself for 5 minutes. Whereas if you've only got 3 minutes to work, the intensity is so much faster. And then
Yeah, it has
regards
to
to
be.
that training and that transition into actual fighting, it's really interesting how you would sort of split that amongst the pros and the amateurs as to what is the best for which, really.
Um, I like the fives obviously because I feel like the threes go really. When you're used to doing fives, you do a 3 minute round once in a blue moon, and you feel like Jesus, that went quick. So you kind of really have to get going in a 3 minute round. But there has been times on in the gym where we split the mat in half, all the amateur guys on one side and all the pro guys, and then the pro guys do their fives on a separate timer to the amateur guys. So like nobody misses out or nobody is kind of doing something that they're not going to be doing on fight night if we're all fighting within a few weeks of each other, which we usually are. Everyone kind of needs to be like working to what they're actually going to be doing in competition, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. So one thing I want to sort of get on as well was your weight cut in the first place. So talk to me about your cut to fly. What did you walk around at? Well, what did you walk around at before you would fight a flyweight?
What can't remember now. What was I? It's hard to think. It wasn't actually that much difference, really. Like now, obviously, I know with all this lockdown and whatnot, no one's training as much. Everyone's eating a little bit more comfortably. Like now, I weighed myself a couple of days ago, and I was like 70-ish, give or take whatever I've eaten, like 71 maybe, or. But as soon as I get back into training every day and like keeping to a diet, that it usually just falls off me. But for flyweight, I'll probably walk around. It must have been anywhere from 66 to 68 or something. So yeah, I imagine it. I know there's guys who cut like ridiculous weight, even as a flyweight, probably walk around much heavier than that. But for me, I don't know. That was I never really had bad cuts. I could just never really get them right. It was either I had a really good weight cut and a terrible refuel, or like the other way around.
So that is really interesting as well. I mean, because you hold quite a lot of muscle anyway, that's probably why the weight cut itself is always quite taxing anyway. And this is so underappreciated, the value of the rehydration. Because what you hear, like the old school guys when they used to do it before, like the whole weight cutting science came in, they go to like the Pizza Hut, Burger King after they've weighed in, and then wonder why I feel like shit the next day, if they even got a
Yeah,
next day kind of thing.
take a few times. Not quite Pizza Hut or Burger King, but just binge eating after where you've kind of starved yourself for a day and been cutting for weeks. It's just you got to be kind of strong-minded enough not to stuff your face after you get off the scales and make sure you're hydrated enough, like before you do start eating meals and whatnot.
So, regards of your transition, I'm going to sort of jump around timelines a little bit.
Yeah.
So, regards of your transition to from amateur to pro, what did you feel was the real, I don't know, the milestone, the sort of turning point where you decided, you know what, pro's really for me?
Um. Well, what was my amateur record was 9-2 at the end, which is like there's people who go pro way before that, and there's people who carry on their amateurs way past that even. So I don't know. Like I think we got offered, or Jack got a message about fighting in Liverpool, and he messaged me and just see what I thought about it and Jack's the type of person where he wouldn't even message you about it or ask you if he didn't feel like you was ready. Like that, you'll speak to him at times like about sparring and whatever, and like you feel like you've done really good, and he's like, "Well, you got to keep your hands up a bit more, and you got to do this and that." It's like, but he went, but he'll go, "But you did all right." He wouldn't. He's not the type of guy who would kind of bring it up if he didn't feel like I was ready. So just knowing what Jack's like, I obviously felt like maybe that was the right time, and then we did it. Didn't go my way, but
How did that feel then? So after you've had this sort of big sort of transition, this is your moment to sort of show, yeah, I'm ready to go pro. Not to mention it's the like complete opposite where you normally fight, not the southeast, it's the northwest,
yeah.
and then it doesn't sort of work out. What was your thoughts at that point? Did you consider maybe going back to amateur? Did you think, which wasn't my night? How did you deal with it all?
Well, after that, obviously I did break my hand anyway, but I'm not going to bang on about that because it's been spoke about in other times or whatever. But I broke my hand in that. Went back to the gym after I don't know how long it was because I had a cast on and all that kind of thing. Got really fat. Whereas obviously didn't do it. It wasn't working out or anything, so I was just eating and like just laying in bed basically watching the telly and whatnot. But then I think I was at the point where I was training again, like reasonably kind of thing. Not like every day, but maybe 4 or 5 days a week, and I just weren't enjoying it. So I just sacked it off. I sacked it off for about, must have been 8 months or so. Just kind of went to the gym, just lifting weights and just kind of seeing what it was like to not train. Like at the time as well, for my pro debut, I was training like 3 times a day and working a part-time job. So I was only working like 3 days a week. But then on the days where I was off, I was training my arse off. And then after that pro debut, obviously not going my way, I just kind of, I was beating myself up about it a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe the kind of like the hype was kind of wrong. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. I don't know. You kind of have this like mental battle with yourself anyway. But that one for me, well, I don't know. Just especially as you feel like it's going to be like the start of something better, something bigger, like moving through the pro ranks or whatever. And just being able to call yourself a professional when you've worked so hard as an amateur to kind of get there one day and it don't go your way. I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, everything kind of came crashing down a little bit, but that's just, everyone's going to beat himself up if they was in that situation as well. You beat yourself up about it. And then I just got bored of kind of not training. So I feel like that break did do me a lot of good, but I just wish it wasn't so long.
It is an interesting thing. You touched on a few things there. Like it's almost like imposter syndrome a little bit, that you had, despite your success and everything else, just all the additional hype or the additional support you had, almost felt, I don't know, like almost a facade, almost like a bit fraudulent. Because if you don't believe it and then it doesn't pan out, you almost feel, I don't know, that maybe it wasn't. You start doubting what you have done. You start doubting all the things that have led to that point, and then the confidence to still call yourself a professional athlete, still go back in the gym and carry on as normal. It must be so just confusing, really, nothing else.
It was confusing, to be fair. Like it felt weird. Like even after I had a pro debut, like I wouldn't class myself as a pro guy. Like in the gym, I wouldn't class myself as a professional because I haven't got a professional win to my name. I remember one time, I think there was like a team photo of all the pro guys or whatever, and I just didn't go in it. I was like, I'm not a professional fighter. I was like, I'm not a professional. I haven't got a pro win to my name. I think I just went to not let anyone. I don't think it was because obviously there's loads of pro guys in the gym anyway, so no one even, it wasn't like a big thing. But I think I just went and got changed with everyone else or something. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. But yeah, it does. You feel like, oh, maybe I'm not what I was kind of cracked up to be, or maybe I'm not as good as I thought. But when you get back to normal, you're in the gym and you start sparring and stuff like that. I feel like that's maybe a big one you get confidence from, is your rounds, obviously. So when you're sparring with the best guys and you're still holding your own and even winning rounds, that's when you kind of get that confidence back.
When you were going through all of this kind of redemption period, I want to say, of you're back into training, you're trying to shift your puppy weight and all this kind of stuff. Is there anyone in the gym who sort of, I don't know, you went to for like support to try and, I don't know, try and find some answers from?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily gone to get answers, but I'd obviously spoke to my coaches about it. Like Jack was obviously always messaging me on WhatsApp and whatever, just like, oh, you're going to come back and train kind of thing. I just said, I can't really remember it like exactly word for word. I was just like, I'm just going to take some time and see what I want to do. Pardon me. I spoke to Sean about it as well. So they kind of was like, oh, okay, well, no one's going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. Like, it's completely up to you. There's guys who have gone through or are going through similar things even like recently, and the approach is the same with them as well. Like, no one will force you to do anything. Like, you don't have to fight if you don't want to. You don't even have to train. But I remember Jack, I was away on like a weekend away with my mates or something in Newcastle, and Jack was like talking to me about training and whatnot, and he was just like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, do whatever you want to do, obviously, but like." He, in one of the messages, put, just don't be a waste of talent. He was like, it'd be such a shame to see like you just be a waste of talent. And I kind of just like that was right at the beginning, but I took my time, but that always kind of stuck with me. And I thought, well, he's always kind of thought that, so like he wouldn't just think that for no reason, kind of thing. But like, yeah, I spoke to my other coaches about it as well, and they all said similar things. Like, it's just one of them things that they've all been through it themselves. That's the thing. They're all experienced guys. They've all experienced like the biggest highs and the lowest lows in losses, and so they'll understand it anyway. Everyone's like, most guys who compete have been through it, so it's nothing out of the ordinary for most guys who have competed and lost and whatnot.
So, talk to me about the next point then. So obviously you go to them fight again. What was the turning point for you thinking, okay, I want to give another crack at this and then get stuck in again?
So for me, it was obviously I fought in October last year. That was the first fight I probably had, and at the time it was for like a year and a half because I'd had my time out, then had my time to get back in shape, then had my time to like for a camp. So by that time it had been like a year and a half since I competed. But the training weren't as much, so I was training less than I was for my pro debut, but felt better. I wasn't killing myself with a 125 cut, so I felt comfortable. And like the difference in like being a few weeks out from a 125 fight to a 135 fight for me, like I still felt so sharp in the rounds. Like a week out, like on the last rounds at 125, I felt like a zombie. Whereas like I feel completely fine. Like, and things went well. Like the sparring was all going well. I was like trying to take everything on board. Like I wasn't killing myself training 3 times a day like I was for my debut, and I just felt so much more relaxed about it. Like even on fight day, I wasn't stressed for some reason. The one thing I did think though, which was weird because I'd never fought like that before, was I was the main event for that card, and I was the only one in the change rooms. And I don't know, I literally don't know why. I've never fought it before, but I was thinking how I'm going to go out there after and apologise like I've lost again, which is ridiculous. Like, because it was just me and my corner team, and I'm warming up, and I'm thinking, I don't know, like I had a dry mouth. I said to Charlie Falco, I was like, why have I got a dry mouth? Obviously the nerves were there because I didn't want to go out there and lose again. I've like brought a big crowd of people with me. I only live down the road. I brought a big crowd of people with me before my debut. I was like, I can't face losing in front of people. Like, I don't know, it's a stressful thing, but I felt so chilled out all the way up to it. And then literally I was like half hour maybe before I walked out, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to go and kind of say to people how, like, apologise for losing again or whatever. And then that kind of went away when I walked out. And obviously the first round started, we started moving around or whatever, got the takedown, landed some nice ground and pound. And I think the first round had gone, and I was like, I just felt so good. I was like, I feel fantastic. I even walked back to my corner, and I could see everyone like who I knew outside of the cage because there was like barely anyone in the venue then. And I think I just like threw my arms up in the air. I was just like, come on, because I just felt so good, and it felt like such a different experience. So it was quite a weird one. But yeah, you got to give them things another go. Like the question what you said, sorry, I know I waffled on.
No,
but
it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, like obviously just took it one fight at a time. So I had that fight in October, and then a few weeks, literally maybe 1-2 weeks went by. Jack was like, "Oh, there's a fight 4 days before Christmas if you want it in Italy." I was like, "Oh, I still feel good, so let's do that." So then we done it all over again. It weren't as intense in the gym because people start dipping off like towards Christmas and stuff like that. But there was still like a good solid group of people. Like the fighters, like Steve was fighting, like maybe a few weeks before me. I think Emra was. There was still people to spar with. There's still like good guys to spar with. So yeah, it was just taking it one fight at a time really. But they all came so quick.
Well, that's what's really interesting. A few things you
yeah.
touched on there. Sorry, I thought you finished a bit of delay still. Yeah, it was just quite interesting when you were saying in the change room the whole day you were just so composed and like relaxed, and then you got this kind of wave of self-doubt and this almost what ifs. But it's interesting how you then, I don't know, you didn't even necessarily say you got over it. You sort of just got on with it almost. It's weird.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, definitely stop me if you want to ask something and I'm waffling on because I'll just carry on talking.
No, it's a podcast, not an interview. Feel free to waffle and just go off on tangents. It's all good. I got Steve talking about biscuits for don't know how long. It's perfect.
Yeah, well, you could go into all sorts of things
Let's
with
get
that,
into
but
no licorice, no
yeah.
biscuits.
Um, with them kind of thoughts and all that, it's almost there's nothing you can do about it. Your fate's sealed. You've got to go in there and fight someone anyway. You've trained your ass off for it for like 8-10 weeks, whatever it was. Obviously you train regular anyway, but like you've had a camp on top of that. And even if you have those thoughts, you've still got to go out there and fight someone. So there's no point really dwelling on it. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing you can do about it. If you feel like that, there's not really much you can do about it. You still got to go out there and you still got to kind of get on with it. So that's what I tried to do, really. And that felt great, to be fair. Like while I was in there, once them thoughts kind of went,
Just sort of business as usual at that point, isn't it? Sorry, I thought again there's a bit of delay still. One thing I wanted to sort of get at as well is your sort of support. So talk to me about the difference after you lost your pro fight, regards to the response. And like obviously you had quite a big sort of fan base, big following, you know, of social media and all this kind of stuff as well. What was the aftermath like after you had your first pro loss?
it's the same support you get from a win. Like, but I know a lot of people like they put on social media, oh, no one's there for you when you lose and whatnot. But there's people who were there who were just as proud of me for doing it when even though I lost, got stopped in the first round of my pro debut. They travelled all the way out there to Liverpool, and they was all still mega supportive. I still had messages from people. Everyone was just happy I was fine. Do you know what I mean? They were like, obviously, it's so much better when you win. Like in terms of people, they just send you messages or whatever. Like all people you know when you see, and they're always like asking and whatever, which is nice. But that's one thing that people have in their mind. I think that everyone's going to be disappointed in them. Like there's that pressure that everyone you know automatically thinks you're going to win before you've even fought. That's the pressure that I think maybe gets to people at times. Like I don't know, but I don't really worry about that. That's all them kind of negative thoughts that I had before that fight. That's the only time I've ever had that in any fight ever. Like I like to think of myself as a pretty headstrong, like fighter and individual. But that's why I thought it was quite weird when all that was happening. But I don't know. I think some people just get maybe so worried that they've invited all these people, like it's all over their social media, and then they get their ass kicked in front of all those people. I think that's what maybe people are scared of.
That's always a daunting part after you come up short in like a fight or a tournament or whatever it is. Everyone asks you how it went, and you're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Next question. You keep those sort of things.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. So we just get on with it. But again, it's in the moment, it's so daunting because as you were saying, you've got this big crowd of people, and you're asking yourself, how am I going to tell them I'm sorry for underperforming and all this kind of stuff. And it's an interesting concept of this almost. It's almost you set out your prophecy before you've even done anything. You've already laid your bed of, okay, if I think of it now, I'll make it easier for when it happens, even though, you know, you didn't end up losing, you came back stronger. But even still, it's an interesting mindset how it all changed.
Yeah, definitely. It is a strange one. Like I say, I'm not used to having them kind of thoughts or anything like that. So it is a bit of a strange one, really. But yeah, definitely came back stronger. To be fair, after that first round, I was like, oh, there's no way this fight isn't going to go my way. Like after I kind of got rid of that or whatever.
Regards of your amateur career, then, how did you treat those losses?
When I lost, so one of my first loss, I think I was only 17, maybe just 18, and I fought a guy who was a little bit older, or probably quite a bit older, I'm not quite sure, probably a little bit more experienced, and I don't know, at the time, I knew there was things that I could have been doing better, I think. like my training. I think after that loss was when I went to BKK, so I changed things up, got a new look. Obviously, was working with new guys and stuff like that. Obviously, nothing against the guys who I was training with before, but I feel like maybe just needed to change things up. But when I fought Luke, I felt I feel like I was concussed or something for ages up. Like it was a proper war, and then to get choked out right at the end, that I wasn't bothered about it. Like in terms of like scared about it or anything like that. Like I knew it happened. I was just more fuming that I lost. Like you kind of put you put the competition above anything else really. Like most people probably do. Like they're just more devastated that they've lost. Like you don't want to, again, not disappoint anyone, but just for your own kind of progress. Like, but it's funny. Like even after some wins, I've been like a bit gutted. Like I couldn't do things better, or so I feel like I know it sounds corny or whatever, but you do take something away from the losses as well. Like it's not that it's just win or learn. Like sometimes you just thought crap, but I feel like most of the time there is something to be taken away.
Now, besides the obvious of being a pro fight, what do you think was the biggest difference in that loss then that really gave it that weight? Do you reckon it was the occasion? Do you reckon it was your performance itself? What do you think was the biggest difference? The both losses, the value, the base, the way you lost your amateurs and dealt with that versus the way you lost your pro debut and the way you've dealt with that as such. Do you know the way you've received that loss?
I feel like maybe the pro debut loss hit more, just because in your head you're like, this is going to be the fight that's going to kind of take me to the next level. Like it secures me in my head as a professional fighter. It's an away fight, so I've dragged about 20 people up there to Liverpool with me to watch me fight. In your head, you've kind of envisioned how maybe it's going to go. It was at a great venue as well. It was at like the Echo in Liverpool and like the auditorium bit. So it was like quite a flash show. Like it was, and then to have everything, I actually made weight really well as well, which was nice. I did have a good cut, but I had a rubbish refuel. I just feel like I didn't put anything back on. Like size wise, I just felt pretty weak. But yeah, I feel like it's probably the occasion more than anything else. Like you've hyped it up to yourself. Like people have been talking about, it's like your first professional fight, and then for it to go so bad, like it's gone from like being an ultimate high of an experience to like it's just like rubbish. It couldn't have gone any worse. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So I feel like maybe that was, and the fact that it's got that pro label like attached to it. Like maybe I'm not good enough to be a pro. Maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe I'm wasting, like you're only young once. Do you know what I mean? You're only 20. Maybe I'm wasting my whole time doing this. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a professional. That's what the kind of things that go over in your head. I feel like, well, that's the things that did go over in my head at the time. That's why I took the time out to kind of see what it was like to not train and not kind of work towards a fight or work towards another fight. Maybe just see if the grass was greener, kind of doing what everyone else does.
Well, this is a huge part of it. It's definitely an interesting thing. I appreciate you going into this. I appreciate it's not, the nicest thing to talk about, but it is the reality that when these kind of occasions happen, because the whole training and the whole fight camps is such an emotional struggle on top of the physical draining aspect, because you're putting all your eggs in this one basket for this fight is the most significant thing in the world, and every fight is treated the same kind of like with the same weight on it. And when it doesn't come out, the way you'd like it to, it's a very personal, it's a very honest kind of sting to it. So if you then to either come straight back into another one or to take time away, it's just it's a lot of energy, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. So that's why I think I should almost encourage people if they need it to have those kind of breaks, because a lot of people, I can't help but feel they treat MMA and fighting as it's the be all and end all, that if they can't do that, then what? And if you have that reassurance, there is another option. I feel it gives you a bit more freedom when you fight, a bit more enjoyment, I want to say.
Yeah, maybe not so much pressure. Like, I don't know, people who, well, at the time, like I said, I thought that was going to be like the next step to my career kind of thing. I thought that would slingshot me forward, be getting some more big fights, be kind of on my way into the pro ranks. And I think it maybe just put too much pressure on myself, or yeah, I think that's probably what it was. But now, kind of in the fights I've had since, I feel like my mindset has changed because I've had that experience. So do you know what I mean? I feel like it's out of the way.
What is your usual sort of fight day routine? So say like your last fight, what's your usual, like when you get to the venue and whatever else, you have like little rituals or routines or anything you kind of do?
Not necessarily rituals or routines. I mean, I always go out for breakfast with like my friends, my girlfriend, on fight day morning. Don't obviously overdo it. Just have something small. Then, but I have a lay-in, so that's not even usually till like 10, half 10. Then just keep drinking the water, drink a lot of water. Go home, get my stuff ready, triple check that I've got everything. If they're local, I can go to the venue, listen to the rules meeting, get my medical done. Then I don't hang around. I go somewhere else, go to the hotel, or I went home. Pardon me. I went home for the Rico fight. I went home, but that felt weird. I was like just watching stuff on Netflix, thinking, and at the time as well, all my friends and family who were at my house. Bear in mind, everyone got ready at my house. I got a twin brother, so like we got all the same mates. All my friends have got ready, or like they're pre-drinking or whatever at my house. I'm just tucked up in bed watching something on Netflix, and then they all leave, and now the house is just empty, and it just felt too weird. So, like since then, I've not gone home. Like I go to the hotel, and like Charlie came with me last time, and like there was a few other guys at the hotel as well, so it felt a little bit more normal. But no real like rituals or routines. Just trying to stay relaxed. Then when it's time, get your hands wrapped, just the usual. Have a warm up, go through the motions, walk out, and hopefully do the business.
What's your warm ups like on fight day? Do you like to get a proper sweat on, a little move around? What's your kind of preference?
Yeah, definitely get like a decent sweat on, get your brain switched on, a mixture of like hitting pads or not. There's been times where I haven't hit as much pads and done more like Charlie or whoever is around who's my size, who I train with, gets a pair of mitts on, and we just literally move around and like just not touch each other even barely, but just start moving around, get your legs going, get your brain switched on, almost like flow sparring, like not touching, just moving. Like you might throw, say for example, I'll go for the shot, do some chain wrestling stuff. If I don't get that one, work for another takedown, break away and throw shots. Just go through or whatever it is we've been drilling for whoever the opponent is, but definitely get a decent sweat on. Like there's nothing worse than going out there cold. You're going to be waiting out the back for anywhere from 10 minutes to half hour at times, whatever. Depends how the fight before you's gone. So definitely get a good sweat going and keep moving.
Now, most important question of the podcast. What is the post-fight meal saying? What is your, setup? What's the damage going?
It's everything. It's everything. So in Colchester, there's a McDonald's next to the venue. So it's always go over to McDonald's and get a burger that in your head will taste like the best burger you've ever had. And then you bite into it and it's just McDonald's crap. So you're immediately let down by that. Then, the last few that have been on the Southeast show, we've went into town. So it's usually rum and coke is the first. But yeah, over the next week or whatever, it'll just be just rubbish, just junk. It is awful. I know you're meant to try and like reverse kind of like the way you diet down. You're meant to kind of eat slowly bigger meals. And
who does that? Who does that?
Who the hell does any of that? But yeah, it's just the score. You've competed and whatever. Like you just eat and eat and eat, but it's hard to kind of stop.
Do you know what's interesting? Before we had this podcast, my mum was telling me about it. So she saw you in the paper. She's like, "Oh look, Dan, this guy's from where? Because my family's all from like Colchester and like, Essex way." And saw you in the paper and stuff. I was thinking, I'm sure I probably know him. I've got him on Instagram, don't I? So I was saying to mum, "Guess who I've got on my podcast tonight?" Here
No
we are.
way.
Look at that. That was like a celebrity. Here we are. Because my family's all from like Coggeshall and like Colchester way and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Look at
Oh,
that
yeah,
small world.
my sister lives in Coggeshall, actually.
Look at that small world. Small
It
world.
is a very small.
So, Mr. Mitchell, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. I just share everything from Twitter, from Instagram to Twitter, so don't even bother following that. You may as well just follow the Instagram. It's at LR Mitchell 97. Facebook, it's just my name, Leigh Mitchell. I think that's about it. That's all the important ones.
Awesome. Thank you for listening, guys. And this episode has been sponsored by Mauler MMA. Use code FCMMA20 at checkout on maulermma.com for 20% off on all products.